everybody, welcome live to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. Good to have you with us. Jim Masters here in the host chair, reporting for duty here in the New York area, in the United States. And thanks for tuning in from all around the world and all the comments and all the love and support of our series, bringing back the lost art of conversation with our incredible celebrity friends and guests that stop by the show. And we are so excited. I am very excited to welcome to the show an American treasure, truly a beloved television host, talk show host, game show host, producer, author, comedian, just about everything you can think of in our industry, folks. Marc Summers has done and continues to do. And we're going to talk about, of course, a lot of the things that you love talking about. Double Dare, his years with Nickelodeon, of course. He was there really when Nickelodeon was making its mark, and he was making his mark. But you know, he's been in this industry for a long time, well before the Double Dare days. He started out in Indiana on an AM station, spinning those records, becoming a broadcaster. He had his favorites. He had his mentors. He became a CBS page. He literally, and he and I were just talking off the air about what it takes, or at least during these years, what it took to really build your craft, fine tune who you are, you know, the ups and downs of it all, and meet all the different people, make the connections, work your tail off. And Marc Summers is one of those guys that truly has set the tone and stage for so many other people in the industry. All the fans that know him from Double Dare and from Food Network, Unwrapped, and all the other great shows and talk shows and everything else he's done, love him for being Marc Summers, and I do as well. But also, I respect and honor his tenacity, his fortitude, his wonderful way of not only entertaining and getting us to laugh, but also to inspire us. And he's been very open and real about his life, which I think is also amazing. He wrote a book about OCD, which we'll talk about in just a second as well. But of course, all his years on television have inspired and touched so many people, especially generations of kids who did grow up with Double Dare and the slime and all the laughs and all the craziness. And I actually had an opportunity to meet Marc. We were just talking about this back in 1997. You guys know I work in the industry too, on the air and TV radio. And the Game Show Network and Sonny and Synergy Group came to the region, and they were looking for game show hosts, national search. And Marc was heading that up, and we had an opportunity to compete in that, and it was fantastic. There were hundreds and hundreds of people that actually showed up for that, and it was really amazing. And when I first met Marc back then, he could not be more generous and kind and warm and funny. Here's some shots from the shows, of course, Unwrapped. Also, he is an executive producer behind the scenes too. He's produced some hours and hours and hours of fabulous television like Dinner Impossible and Restaurant Impossible as well on the Food Network. He hosted, of course, remember, History IQ. Did you know he even had involvement in The Truth or Consequences? Yeah, when he was a page for CBS, he got a chance to be involved in so many iconic shows like The Joker's Wild. I'll tell you one day about how my college roommate, who was a Boston sports writer, and I almost became contestants on The Joker's Wild, but we had to come back east. They wanted us to stay longer in California. He was involved with Carol Burnett behind the scenes, the fabulous Carol Burnett Show, and Sonny and Cher, and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. You see what I'm saying? What great training ground, right? Early on, for somebody who watched, who paid attention, who took notes, who loved the industry, loved what it's all about, loved the craft, and really created his own way and his own persona. Of course, idolizing some of the giants in the industry, as I have as well, like the Bob Barkers. We did a special on Bob Barker here on our series. If you didn't see it, check it out. Of course, idolizing people like Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. Soupy Sales, you may remember him, one of the first kids shows of all time. Matter of fact, Marc made his first appearance on children's television, not in Double Dare. He was on Romper Room. He'll tell us about that in just a second. Remember Romper Room? Couch Potatoes. Remember he hosted that show too? Yeah, he has been on our screens for decades, inspiring, entertaining, making us laugh. What Would You Do? Of course, and Win Tuition. Yeah, again, so many incredible things that he's been a part of. But as well, it's not an easy industry. And he's been open about that. He's shared it all and some of his own personal struggles to inspire people along the way. Of course, he's a fabulous magician as well. And that's how he really got started, is with his magic. Remember Marc Summers' Mystery Magical Tour? And did you know that right now, Off-Broadway, this is a dream come true from Mark, and we're so happy this happened for him. And there is talk of Broadway as well. This is Off-Broadway at the fabulous New World Stages. I've been there many, many times. Great place. This is the Life and Slimes of Marc Summers. It's currently on in New York City at the time of our live show right now. We're going to tell you in a second how you can get tickets to see it. And it really is something absolutely special. Mark has really put together something fantastic. It really celebrates, his amazing life. It's a one-man stage performance by American stage and screen actor Marc Summers. The performance takes place on a replica of the original Double Dare set, when audience members competing in stunts from the show to accentuate Mark's narration of his life triumphs and setbacks occurs at the same time. And this was actually adapted from the 1999 memoir as the basis for his work, which recounted his struggles with obsessive compulsive disorder. It's really an incredible thing, and it's happening right now Off-Broadway in New York City. So, yeah, he's involved with this too, and he's there. He's performing it. It's a one-man situation, but it's also interactive with the audience as well. Everybody who's been there has raved about it. It's been written up in all the papers, the New York Times. I mean, it's critically acclaimed. And this, if you are a Marc Summers fan, a Double Dare fan, or just love Mark's incredible background and all the shows he's been a part of, and you just want to feel good, but you also want to be inspired, make sure you get your tickets before they go, folks, because this is something that is wrapping up real soon. And we're so excited to share it with you here on the show. And we're going to have Mark come on in just a second, but we want to show you just a little clip. Mark's in it to give you an idea of what's happening in New York City at New World Stages with the Life and Slimes of Marc Summers. This is really something fantastic.
Pretty emotional night. To live a dream at age 72, to be off Broadway, something I wished for my entire life.
I think what people really don't expect, and it was confirmed for me tonight, is that I think people think it's going to be funny and nostalgic, and I think that it is. But I think what people do not expect is that it's incredibly emotional.
I knew about, some of the stuff that was in his life, but it went to a deeper level tonight. I've never seen him that emotional.
Mark embodies what nostalgia is in so many generations of people. And so you get to be transported back to that.
I double dare you to come and see the Life and Slimes of Marc Summers. You could get on stage, you could relive your childhood, but I think you'll be inspired and perhaps learn a few things you were unaware of. So come and join us, lifeandslimes.com.
And we're so honored to welcome him to the show right now. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome an iconic figure in broadcast media, the one and only Marc Summers.
How are you, sir? That was very kind. Boy, I'm exhausted after that. And I did all that? Oh, my God.
That was only the short list. That was the abbreviated version, my friend. You have made your mark. You have been around the block a few times.
I got to L.A. in 1973 and started all that silliness. And, yeah, it's amazing the ups and downs that people in the industry go through. When I have a podcast as well called Marc Summers Unwrapped. And I was approached by many people to do one, and I kept saying no. Finally got convinced, and I said, but I have to have a point of view. And the point of view is, you see people in a Broadway show or on a movie or on a television show, and people say, boy, they're the luckiest humans in the world. And what you don't know is all the trials, tribulations, and struggles that people had to do to get to where they are. When I lecture to colleges, my opening line is, nobody got up this morning and said, I got to go get Marc Summers a job today. So it's up to you to find the work, to keep your happiness going, and to be passionate about something. But as you know, as a man who's been doing this for a few years yourself, it's just not that easy.
No, it isn't. And, you've certainly put the time in. I mean, it goes all the way back to the early days in Indiana, right? Tell us about that. What about the industry at first sort of turned you on, inspired you to even want to embark on this career, Mark?
I came out of the womb knowing what I wanted to do. That's me at college doing election night in 1972 out of Boston. I was obsessed with Johnny Carson.
Oh, yeah.
I came home from grade school, and he had a show on ABC called Who Do You Trust? I was obsessed with Johnny. And then when he got the Tonight Show, when my parents would go to sleep, I would sneak back down in the den, and at age 11, 12, would watch the Tonight Show back when it was an hour and a half, started at 11:30 and went to some markets 11:15 till 1 o'clock, and find out that Johnny Carson started his career as a magician. So I started to do magic. I was just trying to emulate what Johnny did. He was from the Midwest. I was from the Midwest. He wanted to be on radio at the time because TV didn't exist. And then, so he started as a magician. And I was kind of tracing his steps and trying to emulate what Johnny did.
You know, also somebody else that I got a chance to meet, he stopped by our radio station once and he was hilarious, and God bless him, he's no longer with us, but Soupy Sales, right?
The best. A dear friend. I got to meet him when I was working at the Comedy Store, and we were dear friends right up till the end. And he was a big influence. My mom was from Toledo, Ohio, and I used to go there for the summers, and he was on WXYZ having breakfast with Soupy, and then it became lunch with Soupy. And so I was obsessed with him at the time as a kid, probably the first introduction of wanting to do this kind of stuff. And in many ways, my career became like Soupy's because of the kid show and pies and stuff like that. But he did stand up, and he was a good writer, and he knew a lot about jazz, and he was a very smart guy. We had a conversation once. He was so upset that people thought all he could do was, talk to fake dogs and get pies. He went to Mark Goodson and asked him if he could be on What's My Line to prove how smart he was. And back in the days when Soupy was on, he guessed just about everybody. He was incredibly smart and intuitive on how to win that game. So I've been fortunate enough to have sort of brushes with greatness with a lot of folks like that.
When did you decide, okay, we're going to make that move to go out to LA and give it a shot? When was that the decision you made to leave the Midwest and do that?
Well, I never wanted to go to college. So I joined the Navy thinking I was going to go to Armed Forces Radio and Television. Found out while I was in that was never going to happen. So I got thrown out for bad knees after 28 days. Thank heavens for that. And I ended up at a place called Graham Junior College. It was a school in Boston. It was all about radio and TV. A lot of people came out of that school. Paul Fusco, who created Alf, went to school with me. Bert Dubrow, who created Sally, Jesse, Raphael, and Jerry Springer, and Andy Kaufman. We all went to the same school. And it was sort of a springboard for all of us to get in the industry. And in 1973, I moved to Los Angeles, became a page at CBS Television City, became a regular at the Comedy Store in 74, and became a regular at the Magic Castle in 74, Comedy Store in 76. And I started with Dave and Jay and Robin and Shanling and all those guys. And that's where I really started getting my feet wet doing live performing for the people who could actually change my life.
It's incredible, too, because you had opportunities to do announcing and warm up for some of the iconic shows of our times. I mean, I think it was the last period when Bob Barker was doing Truth or Consequences that you were actually there on scene.
I was called an idea man. I worked 2 days a week for $300 to come up with ideas because the show had been on since radio, and they were looking for youthful thoughts. And they brought me in, didn't listen to a thing I said. Brought me in June or July, had me fired by November. But that's where my introduction to Bob was. And I worked for him. He had a production company, and at one point was needing material for game shows, so I wrote stuff for Bob. And he was my mentor for many years. Complex individual, not the person you think he is, but that's a whole other story. And yes, I worked on that show. I was doing the warm-ups on, let's see, where do I start? I did Soap, Alice, Star Search, What's Happening Now, Webster, lots of game shows, Anything for Money with Fred Travelina, Joker's Wild with Jack Berry. Yeah. I was making six figures back in the early to mid 80s, 6 days a week asking people where they were from. And it was a great way to make a living, but I was bored out of my mind because I wanted to be in front of the camera, not behind.
Yes, but when you were, behind the scenes of these iconic TV series, there you were at CBS Television City. I bet you were really soaking it in. You were watching, you were paying attention to how it all works.
Oh yeah, I mean to be there with Norman Lear and Carol O'Connor and Sonny and Cher and just all the shows I was fortunate enough to work on. Yes, it's a learning curve. And back then there were people who actually knew how to produce television, and it was all people that I grew up with. I mean, Gary Smith and Dwight Hemian did every major variety show, or especially from Barbra Streisand, Judy Garland, you name it, they did it. And I ended up working for Gary and Dwight. Bette Midler special. I worked with them on Shields and Yarnell. I worked with them on the Mac Davis show. So I got to meet my idols. I mean, Marty Pacetta, who was the biggest director at the time doing the Oscars, the Emmys, everything, was the first guy to really hire me. In fact, we were in the middle of doing a presentation for NBC, and NBC changed the date. And I was supposed to leave for my honeymoon on June 17th. And Marty said, "No, you're not. We're doing a run through for NBC that day." So that was the first time I had to tell my wife, guess what? We have to change our plans. We had to leave on the 18th because Marty said I had to be there. So, yeah, you learn about, how much do you want to sacrifice to get where you want to go? And Alice and I will be married 50 years, June 16th. But
Congratulations.
She's gone through a lot because of my ridiculous career.
And still with you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. That's beautiful. It's a real love story. Through it all, you've been also very open about, struggles and what it's all like. I say it on this show too. The key is to make it all look easy and effortless for the viewers and the listeners and the consumers of all of the material. But behind the scenes is chaos and, plug that in and I got the wrong tape and what's going on. And it can be very heady for some people, and some people don't last like you have. You have this inner tenacity. You've had a lot of different things thrown at your life, great success, incredible triumphs, but also losses. Of course, battled with cancer a couple of times, car accident, dealing with OCD through it all, which is kind of fascinating to me because this industry almost sort of creates it too, in a way. It also you know what I mean? Everything has to be on time, quick, look great, be perfect, be excellent, and be now. Do you think at all having obsessive compulsive disorder attracted to an industry that demands perfection and everything in its place?
I just spoke at an OC conference at Albert Einstein University a few days ago with some of the smartest people I've ever met. I didn't deserve to be there. But I talked about the positive side of OCD. All you hear is about the negative side of people, having to flip switches and walk in a room with the even number of steps and all that stuff. And yes, I did some of that stuff. But OCD made me successful. I was a pain in the rear end because if somebody said to me, call me, stay in touch, that was the worst thing you could have ever said. I used to have producers say, I'll hire you, just stop calling me. So I was relentless and it worked for me. And yes, I had to deal with the neatness of the things I was doing, putting things symmetrical. And, it's a whole story. And that's a lot about what Live in Slimes and Marc Summers is about this desire. But how I discovered on live television when I was hosting a talk show called Biggers and Summers,
that's right.
Dr. Eric Hollander came on and I spilled my guts on national TV that I had OCD. And the next thing I know, I'm first on the Today Show, then I'm on with Howard Stern. People Magazine did an article, and I ended up on Oprah. Excuse me, talking about this stuff. And at the time, nobody knew what it was, and people thought I was crazy. And so there was some downtime there because I was hired to do Hollywood Squares, the one that Tom Bergeron ended up doing.
That's right.
And was fired when they found out about the OCD. So that was a very difficult time in my life.
How did your family handle it when you found out or when you announced it?
Well, we were all ecstatic. We shot the promos. They made the announcement with the CBS O&Os. I got standing ovation. Yeah. And then the way I found out I was fired was, I won't tell the person's name because he's still around and he's still an evil bastard. But the message said, we're looking for the next David Letterman or a major motion picture star. You're neither. You're fired. And don't call me back. I listened to that tape. I was at a restaurant called Lebec Fin in Philadelphia. I played that thing back 3 times. It's so old I still have the cassette that was on the answering machine. And so that was a really difficult time in my life.
Yeah.
Then I got to a car accident where I broke every bone in my face. And then I got cancer. And it's like, what else can possibly happen? And I think you have choices in your life. You can wallow in it and play woe is me, or you can, and I'm not going to tell you I didn't have days where I was miserable and had to figure it out. But luckily I was able to overcome it. And that's what Life in Slimes is about, is, people who go to work every day, hate their lives, but continue to do it. And I always feel like I've never worked a day in my life. And the question is, why do some people, when they hit a wall, back off? And there are a few of us who can figure out a way to go over, under, around, and through it and get to where we want to go. And I don't know if it's a physical makeup or, what makes some of us have more tenacity than others, but certainly glad that I did. And that I didn't really start hitting my dream till I was 34. I'm 72 now, and the last several years have been pretty darn good.
Absolutely right. And I think, this is a whole other take, the fact that you've been so open and real about your life, because the people, not just in our industry, but people in general who don't necessarily talk about things that they struggle with, see somebody that's of an iconic figure to them as yourself, somebody who's always put the smiles on other people's faces, you've always lifted other people up, taken them away from their craziness of life through all these shows and all this product that you've put out, and through your talent and your tenacity, to let them know Marc Summers bleeds too. Marc Summers is real too. He's this person you see on television and stage and all, but he's a real person, and he cares enough to be open because he wants to share the story with others who might be struggling. And you even did that with a book you wrote, was it back in 99, Everything in Its Place? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And we did real well with that. A couple of copy in the hard copy, and it came out in the paperback as well. I learned a lot from all the people I work with. Barker taught me, if you make everybody else around you look good, then you look good. And he was the king of that. I used to watch him when I was working on the show, as he selected all of his own contestants. And I studied how he did that and asked him a lot of questions as to what he looked for in contestants. And when you watch him on Price, and the other thing he told me is, make the contestants the stars. It's not about you, it's about them. And he said, if you get in one joke on a Tuesday and maybe one on a Friday, you're good. But let them shine. And I think that's why most comedians are not good hosts, because it's all about them. And you learn as the people like the Sajaks and the Trebeks and the people who had the longevity, they knew how to make the contestants look like they were the stars. And that's old school broadcasting. Back in the day when I left college and came to LA and said, I want to be a game show host, that was actually something you could do. You can't do that today. I feel sorry for the people who are trying to make that dream. Unless you're a famous person or an influencer, God knows what that means. You can't get on anything. And, it hasn't paid off. Name one person who's actually turned that into a success. Very few people. It's a hard thing to do. And most of the time doesn't work because these people don't care. All they want is a lot of money, but don't want to put in the time and the effort. And without mentioning names, I worked with somebody on a show who was an influencer, and that person never understood the game, but kept, I've produced a lot of shows, but they just wanted to be on TV and get paid a lot of dough, but didn't want to put in the time. Right. And I find that over and over again when I meet with some of the younger people and some of the, so-called, stars who get these jobs these days. Man, you can't phone it in unless you know how the game works, the strategy. They're bringing back Hollywood Squares. I'm dying to see who ends up hosting that thing, because that show is not that easy. Peter made it look like it was the easiest job in the world because he was smart. But and obviously Tom did a great job as well. But it's just, people don't understand the strategy of the stuff. It's mind-boggling. I sound like a dinosaur when I say this. No. I was like, I'm an old guy and I'm jealous. I don't care. I've had a great career. If it ends tomorrow, I'm fine. Absolutely. But I just want the industry to continue in a positive way. And there aren't that many people left who really know how to do it.
Right, exactly. I'm right there with you, Mark. How did the opportunity for Double Dare come your way with Nickelodeon? I mean, the two hand in hand really were just out of the gate so wildly popular. The network was growing, Double Dare came, and they had thousands of people they were looking at before they said, we love that Marc Summers. But wasn't it something about you saying, and we'll be back after this message?
I wasn't even asked to audition. A friend of mine, Dave Garrison, who I knew from Indianapolis, who was a ventriloquist, got the call. And he decided he didn't want to try and be talented anymore. He wanted to move behind the scenes. So he sent me. And they said, Dave Garrison. I said, Dave's not here. My name is Marc Summers. Can I audition instead? They said, sure. They had auditioned 1,000 people in New York, didn't like anybody. I was the first guy to audition in LA. I got 3 callbacks. And I always got the names of the exec producer and the casting agent at the time. And the last week of August, I knew they were going to start shooting 3rd week of September in Philly. And I called Mike Klinghoffer, the exec producer, and I said, I haven't heard from you guys. Anybody make any decisions yet? He said, it's funny, we were just talking about you. We've got it narrowed down to you and another person, but we don't know if you're good with kids. Because when we did the auditions, it was grown-ups playing the part of kids. So I said, well, I have kids. I used to do magic shows for kids. And he said, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. So I came up with the idea, why don't you take me and whoever this other guy is, fly us to New York, put us in the studio with real live kids, play the game, and let the best man win. And that's what they did. They flew me and this other person out. We both did the show in front of live kids. And I get a phone call 2 days later that I got the job. And I said to Mike, out of all the people you auditioned, 1,000 in New York, 1,000 in LA, why did I get it? And he said, you were about the same and you both probably could have done it. Except at the end of his audition, he just looked at them and said, am I done? Do you want me to do something else? And I looked at the camera and I said, we'll be back with more Double Dare right after this. And because I threw the commercial, they said that was the most professional thing they'd seen. And it changed my life.
You are a professional to know that and to have that and to have seen that and absorbed it. And to, when that time came, master even a line like that, Mark, just shows in that small way that it is your talent. You know, you and I met, as I was mentioning, back in 1997, and you couldn't have been more funny and gracious and warm with everybody. There were hundreds and there were thousands of people that showed up, and it was the Game Show Network's national search for a host with Synergy Group and Sonny. And a lot of my broadcast colleagues said, Jim, you should go and just give it a shot. And I said, oh, okay, yeah. And I went, and it was fantastic. And I think out of like these thousands of people that showed up from all over, they came from everywhere. There were people that sold insurance and people that were butchers and people, they just all wanted to, get into that. And I was in the industry, but they wanted to, and there was this fabulous thing that was happening and you were the head of it. And this is what it was.
Hey, game show fans, Game Show Network is looking for some talent. Now, if you think you have what it takes to become the next Alex Trebek, check out our coast-to-coast search for a host coming to a city near you. And if you'd rather like to watch from a comfortable distance, you can cheer on the prospective hosts as they compete for the hot seat. Either way, you can win thousands of dollars in prizes. Now, to get more information, take a look at our website, fax us, or write to us. Get in the game with Game Show Network's coast-to-coast search for a host. We'll see you there.
Of course, that was 1997, folks. So don't write now.
I've never seen that, man.
And there's even a fax number,
A fax. That's where did you find that?
I did my research. I'm a broadcast guy. It was something that, and you were there, and it was just the Synergy Group people, the Sony. I still have that 27-inch TV that I got, and a beautiful letter from Sony and Synergy Group. And it was I just did it just to see what, you guys would say, what Sony and Game Show Network just say as far as, and the beautiful letters I got. And it was like 3rd out of thousands of people, which was really something that was very, very important. And you were there. And I just wanted to thank you all these years later. Thank you then, but I want to thank you again for just being so gracious and kind and encouraging and nice to everybody. And it was really cool. I had my green sport coat on, and I remember they had the actual stage set up because we got to the point where we were able to do the competition with actual contestants. And some of the buzzers weren't working. And I was wondering, I wonder if that was strategic to see how you would handle it if the buzzers don't work? Are you going to freeze? Are you going to interact with the contestants just like you always have? And that's what happened. I said something funny and everybody just blew up laughing because one of their buzzers wasn't working. And the person was like, what's going on? I can't get my, which you've seen happen a lot. And
but as you know, on live TV, live, it's one thing, but when you're recording, you just stop tape and fix it. But we did it in Chicago, Boston, Philly, Hartford, LA. We went all around the country, and they took all the finalists and, put somebody on for a year hosting something, as I remember. But
right.
God knows who that person is and where they are today. But it was a nice promotion back in the day.
It was really fantastic. And you heading it up was fantastic as well. How did you, just for those who are super fans that are watching, who are live commenting, they're all welcoming you right now, they're commenting. How did the Food Network world, the world of culinary, come in your direction as well, Mark?
That was a mistake. Everything I've done has been a mistake, and I've fallen into stuff. People came to me and thought I was a producer. I never wanted to be a producer. And a young lady who I used on my talk show on Lifetime called Our Home, Roseanne Gold, had won 3 James Beard Awards, and I loved her. And I thought she would be fantastic at Food Network. And she ran Windows in the World and what's the club on top of 30 Rock? Can't think of the name right now.
Rainbow Room?
Rainbow Room. She ran the Rainbow Room. She owned it. It was great. So we had a big meeting there with all the executives, and I had all of her books that she had won James Beard Awards, and I'm selling the hell out of her, and all the time they kept saying, "Well, why don't you do a show? Well, why don't you do a show? Well, why don't you?" It's like, why would I do a show? I know nothing about food other than eating it. And they initially had done their research, I guess, and found out that the kids who grew up watching me on Nickelodeon were now old enough and thought they may follow me over to Food Network. And Food Network was, up and running but growing and not having a big audience before Emerald got there. And I got a show called It's a Surprise, where we did surprise parties. The surprise was nobody was watching, but they offered me Unwrapped. It had been done by Marc Silverstein with some specials. And they said, do you want to do it as a regular series? And we were originally on Monday nights at 10:30, and it bombed. And the president of the network called me and said, we're going to move you to 9 o'clock on Monday nights for a month. If it works, great. If not, have a nice life. They put us on Monday nights at 9. We exploded. Then we were on from 9 to 10. And then they we did a game show called Trivia Unwrapped. So it was all Marc Summers all the time from 9 at night till 10:30 every Monday. I was Guy Fieri before Guy Fieri was Guy Fieri. And so I did that for a long time. We did Unwrapped for 11 years. You can still see it on Discovery Plus. We trend every day and every night. Some of those shows I haven't shot in 10 years, but people still love watching that stuff. And so it's just interesting to see where your life goes when you least expect it.
And then these shows too, you were involved in producing as well, which was another fantastic opportunity. You've had a lot of opportunities. Like I said, you are somebody, I was always trained, I'm sure you were too, coming up, that learn something about everything. You don't have to be necessarily an expert at everything, but watch, take notes, and just learn something about everything, because you've worn just about every hat you can wear in this industry, and you've done it beautifully, my friend. This was a great series, History IQ. You did that as well, which was another great one. You just had an opportunity to be a part of so many terrific things. Couch Potato. Potatoes, that was another one. And Bruce Forsyth's Hot Streak.
Yeah, I was the announcer. That was my first national announcing job. Bob Noah, who just passed away, great producer back from the old days in the 50s, really believed in me. Used to let me do the run-throughs for cameras prior to Bruce getting there, and let me be the announcer. And it was like dying going to heaven. I idolized Johnny Olson.
Oh, and,
when I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get a chance to announce one of these shows, it was, once again, so much fun. I couldn't believe I was getting the chance.
Well, of course, I remember when they had staff announcers live. This is CBS. Just paid just to do the announcements and the station IDs and everything else. What Would You Do was another one people remember, and Win Tuition. You have been everywhere, my friend.
Yeah, I can't keep a job apparently. They just keep.
I was gonna say everywhere, and of course, magic.
Yeah,
Near and dear to your heart, right? Just
got
like
me
Johnny,
started, and
just
you
like
know,
Carson. Yeah.
yeah, and it got me started at the Magic Castle, and you know, I was opening for Gallagher at a place called the Magic and Comedy Club in Newport Beach, or maybe it was a Laugh Stop, but anyway, it was Newport Beach. I was opening for Gallagher, and Gallagher said to me, "How much they paying you to do those card tricks?" This was 1977, 78. I said $150, and he goes, "You're a jerk." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Do you know how much the comedians get to open for me?" I said, "How much?" He said, $300. So he said, "Quit having people pick cards and quit cutting ropes and putting them together and just do stand-up." And so I slowly started to weed all the magic out to do stand-up. And that must have been maybe 75, because in 76 is when I became a regular at the Comedy Store. And when I did the Comedy Store, no magic, all stand-up. And so you learn things along the way. Look, I was happy to have 150 bucks for the week. 300 is certainly better than 150. But I used to work weekends. If you're ready for this, my rent in Sherman Oaks was $125 a month.
Wow.
And I got called one day to go to a club in Long Beach, California. The guy would pay me $50 cash to host a wet t-shirt contest. And I drove down to Long Beach every Saturday night, did the wet t-shirt contest, got $50 and went back, because at the end of the month, it paid my rent and had $75 left over. So,
That's
you know,
what you do, right? Yeah.
you know, did I ever dream I was going to host wet t-shirt contest? No. Did I want to do it? No. But you got to pay the bills too, you know?
Exactly. I was the Easter Bunny in the shopping mall once.
Of course.
I hosted a dating show for the True Network or something in a shopping mall parking lot. I mean, when you look back, the things that you did, all of it, it's a puzzle, right? And all of these things are pieces of a puzzle.
Yep.
This phenomenal off-Broadway event that's happening, this experience in your life, tell us about this, and tell us, this wasn't something that just came overnight, right? This has been something you've been working towards for quite a few years. Congratulations.
Thank you. 1964, I saw my first Broadway show, Fiddler on the Roof. Had never seen anything like that in Indianapolis. I just wanted to figure out how to do that. Started doing community theater in Indianapolis. Then I got sidetracked with magic and stand-up and one thing after another. But I always wanted to do a one-man show. And so I started off 11 years ago in Long Beach Island, New Jersey, at a place called Surflight Theater, doing Vince Fontaine in Grease. And when I was there, I met a guy by the name of Drew Gasparini, who was in the show as well, who then introduced me to a guy by the name of Alex Brightman. If Alex Brightman is an unfamiliar name to you, you don't know anything about Broadway, because
he's incredible.
Yes, he started as a star. Well, he did many shows before. He did Matilda, he did Wicked, but he starred as Beetlejuice. He starred in the lead of School of Rock. He just did The Shark is Broken and Spamalot. And he wrote my one-man show. And we started this in Bloomington, Indiana 8 years ago. Then went to the Adirondack Theater Festival. It sort of sat dormant for many years. And this past summer, we did it in Pennsylvania at a place called the Mount Gretna Theater, where it was a disaster. And one night when we were performing, Steve Edlin, who's the director of the Mrs. Doubtfire National Tour, came in and saw the show and said to me, "Have you ever thought about doing this in New York?" And I said, "Yes, every day of my life. But I don't know anybody in New York." And he said, "Well, you do now." And the next day, the Schubert organization called me, wanted to see the script and wanted to know if we had a reference tape. I sent it to him. A week later, they had me talking to a producer. I was in New York to do The View on the Halloween show, met with her for dinner. We made a deal, and we closed the alleyway in Buffalo the 29th of September. And January 29th, we opened rehearsals in New York. We opened Feb 14th, 16-week run. We closed June 2nd. And it's just been a magnificent experience. We were just nominated for some award off-Broadway today. I don't know exactly what it is, but I just found out that we are up for some award, which is pretty cool. It's just been a great experience.
Critically acclaimed as well. And there's talk of, is there talk of Broadway?
There's all sorts of talk. I don't believe anything until it happens. There's, we're talking about a tour. We're talking about all sorts of stuff. But until anything happens, I don't buy into any of it.
Until it's right in front of me, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I've been doing this
Been
too
there,
long.
done that, right?
No, I'm not gonna get
Promises,
disappointed.
promises.
No. Yep.
Yeah. You know, I was telling you about one of my colleagues I've worked with the last 20 years. We work co-host a TV news series and daily radio series out of New York. Doug Llewellyn, the longtime host of the People's Court. And I said to Doug, Doug's been in it as well. You know, Doug's been in it since, I don't know, 60s, 70s, and still doing it. And we work together. And I said, Doug, because the People's Court brought him back a few years ago.
Yep.
They wanted to go retro, and they brought Doug back in. So he was all excited and said, Doug, what do you think what is the trick to it all? What is the magic sauce? What to the longevity in this unreal, unpredictable, crazy, but fabulous industry that we are in? What do you think is the secret? He says, you're probably going to think, Jim, that it's education, expertise, it's the talent, it's the who you know, it's the networking, it's the patience, it's right time, right place, all those things. He said, well, those things do matter. Absolutely. But the thing that really keeps the longevity going in this industry, a good moisturizer.
Doesn't hurt.
There's some truth to that, isn't there, my friend?
Unbelievable. He's a good man. He's a good broadcaster.
He really is. Yeah, good friend.
I worked on the pilot of People's Court, for God's sakes.
Well, of course you did, Marc Summers.
Yes. Unbelievable. I did the pilot. I mean, and there was Judge Wapner and
yes,
I
Rusty
was
the
working
Bailiff.
warm-ups on Our Magazine, and they were right next door
Gary
to it
Collins.
with
Yeah.
Gary, and they asked me if I'd do stand-in work. That's what I did, and I mean, I think back of all those things I was fortunate to be a part of in the early years. Amazing.
Just before we go, because I know you have something coming up, and I really appreciate the time. For anybody that's watching that maybe is dealing with OCD and things of that nature, how, and there is the book, and of course, go see the play, but maybe a quick tip or something. How have you found ways to have it work to your advantage, to accept it, deal with it, and work with it?
Got to find a great doctor. Dr. Eric Hollander's been my source for kind of changing my life. The Obsessive Compulsive Foundation, if you go to the website, has branches all across America. And Howie Mandel's doing something now called No CD. And I understand it's very successful. And they connect you with doctors who can help you in your particular area. So if you go to the website, you know, I've never done alcohol and I've never done drugs, but I've worked with folks who have. And until you're ready to get healthy and happy, all the, you know, you got to go. Until you're ready, you're not going to, because I've done many interventions with OCD people and they just weren't ready. So it's a miserable way to live. But if you can convince yourself that you can have a better life by contacting some of these folks, there is medication. I was on it for a while, not a long time, but it was cognitive behavior therapy that kind of turned my life around. But the proper doctor in behavior therapy is available in places all across America. And if you find those on these websites, I think you can turn your life around. It takes a long time. It's not an overnight deal. But if you hang in there, it'll make you much happier.
What are some of the blessings and joys in your life that keep you going and keep you out there doing this incredible work that you love so much?
I love people. This message in this Broadway show, Off-Broadway show, at the stage door, the amount of people who come up and talk to me about getting their life changed because I was the first guy to open up and talk about OCD. Certainly my wife of almost 50 years. My kids, Matthew is an exec producer at Food Network. My daughter Meredith is a yoga instructor. And I have 3 grandkids, one of which I haven't seen because was born while I was here in New York. So I'll see him on June 5th when I get back to LA. So I have a lot to be happy about and thankful for. And I don't take any day for granted. I just wake up every morning and try to, I try to be helpful to other people. It's about paying it forward at this point.
Well, you've certainly done that throughout your entire life and career. And I know you're very humble about it, Marc, but as a broadcast person myself and as an admirer of your work and your tenacity and your story, keep going. Best of health. We'll be there. We're going to be seeing the show. We're coming into the city to see the show in a couple of days. So looking forward to that. Hope to see you there.
Afterwards, we'll talk. I can't wait to see you.
I would love that. And you're welcome back here anytime, my friend. This is an open door. I keep the porch light on for you. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
it's like working with a pro, which I don't get to do a lot in these situations, because as you and I talked before, everybody thinks they can do this, and guys like you can, and most can't. So I'm applauding you, sir. Well done.
Thank you very much, my friend. My father told me when I was 7 years old, Jim, whenever anybody thanks you, make sure you thank them for thanking you and saying kind words, and then ask them to please put those words in writing and address it management.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you know how that is, right?
Yep, I do, man. Believe me.
Marc
Hey, enjoy
Summers,
this. I'll see you in the theater. And appreciate
yes.
you having me on.
Marc Summers, you are truly the best. Thanks for the time and congratulations on everything.
Thank you. You be well, sir. Take care.
Take care, Mark. Incomparable Marc Summers right here on the Jim Masters Show. We really appreciate all the time. He's got to scoot off. He has something else coming up in just a few moments. So we really appreciate the time. We could have chatted with him for hours and hours and hours, of course, but we're very cognizant of the time. He is very busy right now. And he came to us from a hotel in New York City. He's in New York right now because of the show, because of the play. And yeah, what a great story, right? As I mentioned, he's very open. He's the real deal. He's been through a lot in his life. He mentions the OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He also mentions, of course, car accidents, cancer twice. I mean, some of these things you might not have known that he dealt with while he's entertaining everybody, while he's out there doing his thing, you know, putting smiles on people's faces and hosting all these iconic shows and producing shows. And now with the Life and Slimes of Marc Summers, which is really, really cool, the Off-Broadway show that's happening at the New World Stages. I've been there for many shows. It's really a fantastic place. He opens up about it all, and it's very interactive, and it's really a hoot. And we're going to put on the screen again. This is for those watching live right now. If you watch this 6 months from now, this show will have already happened, but it is his Off-Broadway show. There is the website if you would like to, have an opportunity to, get tickets and all kinds of stuff like that, and everything else. It's really something very, very special when you get a chance to hear stories like these, you know what I mean? And just have an opportunity to there you go, lifeandslimes.com. I think we had it spelled the other way. Lifeandslimes.com. There you go. Well, if you type it the other way, you'll probably get there anyway, but it's Life and Slimes. And it's really, really something very, very special. And it's pretty cool. And I think you will thoroughly enjoy it. So was this fun or what, huh? This was something really, really special. And we're so excited to have an opportunity to chat with our friend Marc Summers joining us here. And so whether you are a Double Dare fan or you love his work on the Food Network with all the shows and everything else he's done, this was a real hoot, wasn't it? Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm your host, Jim Masters. Again, we want to show that website one more time. It is lifeandslimes.com. It's the Life and Slimes of Marc Summers, host of some of the most iconic shows of our time, joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show Series. Gang, if this is your first time here, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you being with us, and we appreciate Marc being with us for all the time that he had. Really something special. I know a lot of you are commenting. We appreciate all the comments in the comments section. Yeah, look at these photos. Brings you back, right, a little bit? We hope you enjoyed this special episode of our show with Marc Summers joining us. Check out the play, New World Stages, lifeandslimes.com. We appreciate Marc being with us. And of course, we always appreciate you being with us as well. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live series, let us know about it. You can leave a comment in the comments section as well. There is a comment section, and that comment section is at the bottom of the episodes. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It does take a village. So what are you liking? You're liking this episode by clicking the thumbs up like button. And you can share this episode on your social media. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, home to all of the great episodes of our series, including this one now, part of the archives, special guest, American beloved television personality and host and talk show host and game show host, comedian, producer, you name it, author, Marc Summers. Here's the book again, too. We want to just throw this in. Everything in its place. In case you are looking for the book, you can get it at Amazon as well. He wrote that back in 99, and you might not have known he wrote that book. What a great conversation, right, gang? Truly. Good stuff with a good guy who's been on our television screens for decades, like 40 years now. Did you imagine that? 40 years he's been on? Thanks for all the comments, everybody. We love seeing everybody here, and we appreciate everybody. I am your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, come see us again here at the Jim Masters Show, where we're bringing back the lost art of conversation, one episode at a time. And our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, has, I think there's over 1,200 episodes now of this series. And you can find me on all the social media as well at Jim Masters TV on Facebook and X and on Instagram. Yeah, you got to be omnipresent these days, right? You got to be everywhere. So we are for all of you. Gang, we love you. Thanks for being with us. Jim Masters here. We thank Marc Summers. We thank all of you. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to love yourself, and always take time for yourself as well. And come back and see us here at the Jim Masters Show. I'll keep the porch light on for you as well. It's always a pleasure when you're here. And we say thank you to everybody who watches, supports, likes, comments, subscribes. It truly means the world to all of us. All right. That's a wrap. Thanks for being with us. Come join us again. We'll be here for you on the Jim Masters Show series. Love you all. Take care and cheers.